All right, hello everyone. My name is Sterling. I'm one of the 2024s. So obviously welcome to the University of Alberta. Sorry, I'll try not to shake the screen too much. Yeah, welcome to the University of Alberta. I hope Foundations has been going well. So I had a couple of requests. You might know Tam. He is in your O week and he was talking to me about some of the 2025s yourselves had been interested in learning about Anki and getting some Anki decks. So I met with Isla, who is your class rep, and we just talked about, some of the resources I have and some of the things I could share. And we decided that it'd probably be best if I just did like a how-to Anki session. So I decided that it might be a little bit easier if I do this as a recording. So that way you can watch this on your own time. You can pause and kind of practice some of the skills I'm going to show you here. And what we might do then is after we'll do like a question and answer session. So that way, if there's something that's not clear in the video, we can focus more on answering those questions as opposed to just trying to absorb everything at once. So I have a slide deck prepared, so we'll switch over to that. All right, so let's go to present here. Yeah, so what we're going to be talking about is just how to Anki. So this first little part's just talking about just, any disclaimers, conflicts of interest. So I don't think I have any conflicts of interest, at least not that I'm aware of. I'm not a hired or paid staff with the school or Anki. And the resources being used are just belong to the respective owners and the University of Alberta School, like the lecture notes and time from DL and the profs. So please use the information respectfully and keep it within the U of A medical student body. So it's totally fine if you want to share with, following years or other years that might have some questions about it, but try to keep it within our faculty, especially since some of this is based on the, information from our lectures. So just being respectful of that. And don't use it or sell it for profit. Again, it was made to help people. So, yourselves as doctors and the patients that you will help. And it would be a breach of copyright. And so we don't want to risk any copyright issues there. So my basic request is that if you find this helpful, that you share it with the following U of A class, so 2026. So just consider this as a gift. Like I don't expect any payment. Most of all, I hope that this whole presentation, the resources, the information about Anki is just to help you match the residency you want and, just make med school that little bit simpler maybe. Just a heads up before we get started, Anki is a fairly complex software program. It takes a little bit to get used to. So consider it a bit like when you showed your grandparents how to copy paste for the first time. A bit amazed, bit confused. I'll do my best, but you might need to do this more than once to be able to do it well and to be able to do it without, referring back to any kind of notes. And if you hit some roadblocks, like you will hit some roadblocks, you will get confused doing this a couple times. I know I certainly did. Like, don't worry about it. It's just one step at a time. I'll lead you through this video. You can rewatch it. And hopefully I have some other videos linked throughout the presentation. So if something you felt like you could get a different perspective on, there should be some videos linked that should help you with that. So let's begin. So these are just some general videos. I'll let you just watch those on your own time if you want. Definitely don't have to, but they're helpful. I found them helpful when I first started using Anki. So the outline for today is what is Anki, why Anki, where's Anki, how to Anki. There's no who is Anki, but and then just a little bit about some resources that we have. And the questions will obviously be a little bit more like after on Saturday, but that's fine. So what is Anki? So Anki is actually just the Japanese word for memorize. So those are the characters, Anki. And so what it really is it's a digital flashcard program. And so I'm sure you've all used flashcards, written something on one side and then flipped over and see the answer on the other. And since it's a digital program, it uses this SRS, so systematic repetition system, to help you learn and retain information. I'll talk about it in just a minute here. And really what Anki is, it's a learning tool. So it can be very effective if it's used well. And so this is like the common image that you see for what Anki is. And again, like it's flashcards. So how did I hear about Anki? Well, during my undergrad, I sometimes heard people talking about using Anki. Like I didn't use it during undergrad, not much, and I didn't know how it worked. So I guess in my 5th year at the U of C, I started taking some Japanese classes, and I started using Memrise, which is another like SRS/flashcard program. So you can see it right here. So at Memrise, to memorize vocabulary. So I found it really helpful for that. And then a couple years later, after using Memrise and doing that, I found out about Anki. So I actually started using Anki at first to learn Japanese, and then I found out that lots of people use it for medicine. So that was really interesting. I thought, okay, like it seemed really helpful for memorizing vocab. So perhaps it'll help for memorizing amino acids or something. Yeah, so I learned how to use the program about half a year before I got into med school. So why Anki? So yeah, like this was also a big question. Like when I first found out about Anki, like, why were people so interested in it, and how does it work, and what's the theory behind it? So for medical school, I think you've already experienced this, but medicine covers a lot of material. Cramming for tests can be stressful, and it can be difficult to draw connections with so much material. Like you get lots of lectures, they keep building on each other. It's cumulative final. How are you supposed to draw that? Like, understand how this relates to that. So with Anki, you keep going over the material, and it really helps you memorize it, and it decreases exam stress and cramming. And I think that alone might be a reason to use Anki. It also helps you focus more on material that you need more practice with, and less on the topics you already understand. So with the flashcards, you can choose if you want to see them again, or you just want to see them later. And what that lets you do is then if you're doing well on a topic, you don't have to spend as much time on it. Versus if you're struggling a little bit more, it'll give you that more time. So it helps adapt it to your own learning style. So it's really nice. Another reason is that memory is based on repetition. So to make memories, you need to use the knowledge. Like you have to go for it again and again and again to really make a memory that lasts. And active is way better than passive learning for keeping memories. So repetition is important, and Anki helps with the repetition and being a more active learning style. So really when we're talking about memory, we're talking about neuroplasticity. So I won't delve too much into this, but essentially it's the idea that, you have to use it or lose it. Like if you never use the information, you'll forget it. You have to keep using it so that way it gets better. It has to be something like you have to be using the knowledge that you need to use, and it has to mean something to you. So again, Anki just helps make this process very intuitive. So when we talk about passive versus active learning, so going to lecture, you're going to remember like 5% of the material. A couple of days later, you really don't remember much. Versus like if you read about it or watch a movie or a demonstration, it goes up to like 30% with a demo, but really that's still passive learning. So you're really not getting much out of your effort, like of watching a lecture compared to doing something more active. So active would be like doing discussions or actually practicing doing something like LCE or teaching others. So DL kind of takes advantage of a couple of these ideas. So this is more active learning, and you can see the difference. Like teaching others is like 90% retention versus just going to a lecture is 5%. So, summarizing notes, stuff like that, that's more active and it goes a long way. And yeah, so like, what was that again? Like, so right after you learn something, of the information that you retain, so that would be at 100%. So, remember this amount of lecture, that you remember all of that. But after about 20 minutes, you only remember about 50, 60% of it. After an hour, like 40%. And if we go like a month later, like 20% of whatever you retained at that first day, you only remember 1/5 of it now. So obviously that's a really big loss, especially when you're going to write a final, 1 month, 2 months later. So what we were talking about, building memories, we want to review the information, we want to reinforce that information, and we want to remember it. So that way when it's A, B, C, or D, you can remember what the answer is. So based on that forgetting curve, we can review things before you forget them. That'll reinforce the memory. And then, of course, without that repetition, we forget the information. So let's have a look. So this red line would have been like that previous graph. So we see how it goes down, 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 and after about a month, it's like 20%. So we forget unreviewed information or knowledge quickly. But what we can do is we can add a review. So after, say, a day or two, or usually about a day, you might review it and you'd remember all the information again. And then you'd wait a little bit longer, maybe a week, and then you review again. Oh, and then you remember all the information. And then you'd review after, a couple weeks, a month, whatever. Third review, and you remember all the information. You can see it gets a little bit better each time, and it takes a longer time to have to review again to keep those memories strong, keep them fresh. So a really good example is how many of you could remember your own phone number? I mean, probably most of the people. But what about your cousin's phone number? I mean, I personally don't, but and I would expect that not many people would. They're both 10-digit numbers. The difference is how often you use them. If you use your own number lots, you have to give it out. You might have to, put in, sign a form. So you remember your own number because you use it lots. Same idea with Anki. You just keep using the information. So yeah, so spaced repetition system, flashcards. So it just simplifies that review, the reinforce, and remember process. And we'll be going over this in the next couple slides. This is just a picture of, the interface of Anki. All right. The next topic is where to Anki. Yeah, I know, a little cheesy, but. So obviously on your laptop, you're going to install the program. It's a free program. That's on the next slide. But you can do Anki almost anywhere. So there's a web account you can sign up on. So you just go onto this link, so Anki Web, and there's no spam emails or anything. You just set up an account and you're good to go. And then after you set up the account, you can sync your stuff online. So like on the cloud, like I'll show you. But what that lets you do is you can then download the mobile phone apps and do your cards on the go. So, you're waiting on the bus, you're, riding to lecture, you're just waiting in Tim Hortons, then you can do a couple of cards. And there's one for Android, which is free. And then there's also one for the App Store. The one for the App Store is $25, so that's a little bit too bad. You can see the little sad face guy, he's not happy about that. But I do use the app, I do recommend it. It is very helpful. So installation of Anki. So how to Anki installation. So it's a free program. You can download it from this website here. So I'll try to post the slides before we meet up so that way you can just copy these, but you can just type it in as well. You're mostly going to need a 32-bit Windows version if you're using a PC. So the version is 2.1.35 for Windows. You can see it down here. So 2.1.35. It's just on this website. It'll look just like this. And then for Mac, it's the same number, 2.1.35. Most likely, like I don't have a Mac. So you can just click on the Mac and you'll just almost have the exact same outline. Try the 2.1.35. If that doesn't work, try the other one. Pretty simple. One of them is going to work. All right, so how to Anki for orientation. So just orientating you to what the software looks like. So I'll pull up my own Anki here. So this would be the main screen. So let's go here. All right. So this is my main screen on Anki, and I'm just going to kind of show you around on the page. So here we got file, edit, tools. This is an add-on. We'll come back to that, but it's not important right now. And then help, you don't need to use these really. And then decks. So what decks is it's a deck of flashcards, or a stack of flashcards. So it's just how you organize your different topics. For myself, I have it organized by block. For foundations, I have it in two separate, like foundations final, foundations midterm. I have one for antibiotics. And I have a deck for, the GI system. And then, I've got another deck just to kind of demo stuff. I'm going to remove that for now. So the other things you can do is there's this add button. So if we just click on that for a second, it'll pull up this other window. So this is just off the main page. And it'll have all this information, it shows this add. And so basically what this lets you do is add cards. I have a whole section coming up like literally minutes away that's going to explain how we make all these cards, what all these different functions are. But just so you know what that browser page takes you to, this is what the add button does. So just one more time, you click on add, and it pulls up that. Okay. Stats pulls up stats about your reviews. I never use this tab almost ever, so you're unlikely to need it. And sync, so if I clicked on the sync button, it would sync up with Anki Web with my account, and I'd be good to go on my phone. I have the app, and I'll just sync it up with the app, and then I can do the cards on my phone as well. That's not important. And then down here, there's some options. This get shared lets you get decks from the internet. You will not need to do that. You can create a deck. So let's do that right now. So if I click on that, I can add a name for the deck. So if I hit new deck, and I hit OK, it just pops up here. So I could click on that. And currently there's no cards. I just made it. So we wouldn't expect any cards to be in there. But if I clicked on decks, I'd go back and you can see, foundations, GI, new deck. And then there's also this guy right here. This is called the review heat map. It just shows how many cards you reviewed. And obviously over the summer, I didn't do any, took a break. It's just kind of nice to look at. This adds a little bit more than just, a gray background. But it's certainly not essential for understanding how Anki works. All right. Yeah, so then one other thing to show you is that there's this little cog wheel beside the deck. So let's go back here. So if I click on that, that's the setting. So, I could rename the deck. So if I hit rename, I could add a deck name like new deck improved or something. There we go. And it updates the name. And what's really important is I want to click on like options. And then I'll pull up this options tab and it'll show like all this information. I'll come back to it. You don't have to worry about it. I have all this information in the slides, but that's just showing you, when you're on this main page, where do you go? So moving on. So we're going to go to the browse screen. So here's my Anki. So we're going to just click on my GI block. I'm going to hit browse. I'll just cascade the window over here. So browse lets you see all of the cards that you have. Just as in kind of an overview. So it's a little bit more into the depth, I guess, of Anki. And there's a few things up here like edit or notes. You don't usually have to go up here too much. I usually don't use any of these buttons. You can just use this fast bar. And I have, for those of you who are familiar with Anki and the add-ons, don't worry, I have it all linked in there. For people who have no idea what an add-on is, don't worry, I'm going to describe that in a minute. But you can just see like, there's some options. So if I wanted to add the card, so here I could have clicked add card, but if I'm in the browse, like if I clicked browse and I pulled this up, I can click on add notes right there. And again, it would just take me back to that creating a card page. There's some other options in here. I'll just come back to it because later in the video, I'm going to literally show you how it works. So for now, it's not that important. But yeah, so if I just clicked on current deck or GI block, I'd just be seeing all the cards I have for GI. All right, let's close that. Yeah, so, and then also if we went to like the card itself. So let's say I clicked on one of the foundations decks. So what you're going to see is like the flashcard itself. And you'll see this little button down here that shows show answer. So if I click on that, it shows the other side of the card. Obviously, I haven't seen this card in a while, so I kick it forward for a year. But yeah, we'll come back again, like just kind of showing you what it looks like. You can pass the card and, there's different cards in there. And over here is an edit button. So this would let you just kind of pull up the editor to edit the card. And then over here on the bottom, there's this more button. So if we click on this more button, pulls up lots of options like flagging a card. So like, you wanted to flag it. And then in the browse feature, it would show up with a red flag. I don't use this very often, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. And you really won't need to know that for most of what you need to do on Anki. The most important thing you need to know is suspend card. So it's just, you just click on this and it would suspend that card, unsuspend. So essentially what that means is if I go into the browse, so if I click on browse, and say this card right here. I could also suspend it in the browse view. So pretty well anything you could do here, you could do in browse. So you can see there's a button up here. It says toggle suspend. So if I suspend a card, it basically means it won't show up when you're doing all of the reviews. So it'll be like, if you didn't like the card, or, had a really rough grammar, or you didn't like the, the image that was being used, you could just go back and just suspend it. And if you want to unsuspend it so you can see it again, you just click on toggle suspend. So again, if I just did it from here, I could go here and then I could go suspend card, and you can see right there, it suspends it. All right. Yeah, but I'm going to show you how all this works actually in action. So no worries, you don't have to be a master at, looking at this. You're going to see lots of it. So add-ons. So Anki add-ons are similar to Chrome add-ons. You download it for Chrome, you just leave them, and they work after that. Very simple. How you get to access them is you go into that top bar. So you go to Tools, and then on to Add-ons, and it'll pull up this extra tab here. So you can see all my add-ons there, but you don't need all of those. So you can click on Get Add-ons, and you can put in the code. And this is the add-on codes that you'll want to use. So there's hundreds of add-ons on Anki, and some of them are good, some of them are not good. Here's the ones I suggest that you get. It's going to give you all the options to make the cards I'm going to make, use the cards that I'm making. It's going to have a few more like editing features, just so it makes it a little bit easier to use, and just some quality of life kind of stuff, just to make it a little bit easier to use on. So if I showed you on my own, so I could go Tools, Add-ons, right there. I could click on Get. Sorry, that was a little fast. Let's do that one more time. So I click on Tools. I can come down to Add-ons, this part right here. Click on that. And you can see this list of add-ons. So you can see that list there. I can click on Get Add-ons, and I can put in the code. So obviously I've already added all of these, but for example, if I want the image occlusion, go 13747721555, and then I would hit OK. But it's already going to be there. Like, it's not going to, yeah. So yeah, you can already see it's already installed, but then you just restart Anki and it would work. As restart as, and you just close it and then open it up again. All right. All right, so now we're going to go on to a little bit more. So making cards for Anki. Just a heads up, I will be giving you my decks. So for some of you that really have no interest in making cards, you basically can kind of skip this little section. Just go ahead until I get to intervals. But for those of you who are going to want to make your own cards and understand, what did I do in the background, and if you need to make any adjustments, you're going to want to watch this part of the video. So making cards. So we've already shown you making a deck. So I made that new deck right there, the new deck. So I created a deck and I typed it, new deck, and then I clicked on that. So you click on the deck, and then you're going to hit add cards. So you just hit the add button. So if I was in my GI block, I click on that. So again, if I'm on the new deck improved, I just click on that and you can see it pulls it up. So there it is. So let's just cover the basics to start. So there's a few different card options. I'll just do this. So this is just that deck. And up here, you can see type. So it shows me the type of card, the deck. So it's obviously going into that new deck improved, but I can put in, the foundations deck, my GI block deck, all the decks. And then there's a few options. Fields, you don't need to really go in here. I did it when I was first setting this all up, but you won't need to, because Anki is pretty good. Once you set it up, it's good to go. And these cards are already included, so you won't have to do anything here. This also shows some more information. Again, I don't use this almost ever, so you won't have to worry about that at all. There's some options as formatting, so you can bold text or italicize or underline. Control plus U, it's underline the text. Same as any Microsoft Word document. Superscript, subscript. You can change the color, change the colors here. So if I added a word color, I could click on that, and I could click on the color there to make it blue. Or if I wanted to make it red, I can make it red. Handy, just kind of formatting. And there's a few other things, but I'll come back to those. So let's just go back to my slides. Okay. All right, so let's actually make a card. So we're going to go to basic. So if we click on basic, so the basic is just the most standard, flashcard that you'd think of. You write something on the front, and then you flip it over, and you write the answer on the back, and you just do the card. So, for example, how was the weather today? On the back, you could write, it was cloudy. Seconds. All right, so hit that. And then if you just click on deck, go back here, you can see I have one card there. So I click on that, and it shows the back. So this is the back of the card, or the front of the card. How was the weather today? So that was what I typed in there. And if I hit show answer, it was cloudy. So that was the answer. So again, if we had if I had closed this, I could just click on add again, open it back up. And I'll show you the other type of cards. There's basic and reverse card. So I can click on that. So I could type in, how was your day today? Good. Just very basic phrase, just kind of showing you. So what will happen is it'll show the one card and it'll show the front, and it'll be like, how was your day today? And on the back, it'll be good. But then it'll also flip around. So it'll show the back first and then the front. So let's hit add. All right, so let's study that card. So how was your day today? Good. But then it'll say good. And the answer would be, how was your day today? So obviously you have to set up the card to work if you're going to do forward and reverse. However, I actually almost never use the basic cards. I find that there's another card called cloze deletion that works far better and it's far more efficient. So this is just kind of covering the basis of the very fundamentals of Anki. So let's go back here. So cloze deletion. So what do I mean by that? So cloze deletion is a fill in the something, something, something kind of card. So it's a fill in the blank. So this is my go-to card for all text questions, everything you have typed. So I don't use the basic card type. So we're going to start. I'm just going to show you the most basic card, simple, one covered word. So let's do that. So we're going to do that sentence again. Superstore is a great large store. So if I go to cloze, so I clicked on this card type, so I click on cloze. Now I'm in a cloze kind of card. So what you can do is you can double click on that. And there's this little brackets right here. Oh, no, sorry, not those brackets. All right. All right, and just a second here. Just a sec. Oh, sorry. All right, so just continuing where we left off. Okay, so yeah, so Superstore is a great large store. Okay, so what I do to write the cloze deletions usually is that I just use the shortcut, so Control plus Shift plus C. So if I press all those, press and hold all of those, Control Shift C, I cover a word. So you can see it goes bracket, bracket, C1, and then 2 colons, and then the word Superstore, and then bracket, bracket. So that was what I used. So I'm just going to hit add. All right, and then let's hit study. So you'll see this is a cloze deletion. So it's missing a word. So something is a great large store. If I hit show answer, Superstore is a great large store. There we go. Very simple. I'm just going to copy paste that so I can be a little quicker. And I'll show you changing the color of the text. So I'm just going to change it to black. There we go. All right. So that was the first thing. So if I kept doing, so I'll write it out again, Control plus Shift plus C. So if I do Control Shift C, I cover Superstore. And then if I do that again, so I cover it right there. So you can see here, this says C1, so that's card 1, Superstore, and then is a great large, and this would be the second word I covered, so card 2 would say store. So again, that was just by pressing Control Shift C, so I can do that as many times as I want, so I could cover all these words. So I'll just show you that. So hit add. And obviously, like this is just an example, like I wouldn't be testing myself about how great Superstore is or how big it is, or that it's a store, but you know what I mean? Like this is just showing you like, you know, Superstore is, I'm just showing you how the cards can be made. All right. So we're gonna do that one more time. Superstore is a great large store. So you've already seen me do the Control Shift C, so I copy that, but I can also add another command, so Control plus Shift plus C plus Alt. So we're going to also add Alt. So you're going to, you're going to hold down Control Shift C Alt, or more like Alt plus C. So let's do it on this large. So Control Shift Alt C, and you can see that it says C1 and then C1 there. So it's going to be one card. So if I hit add, hit study. So now it covers 2 words. So Superstore is a something store. Yeah, and that's just the command I use. So Superstore is a great large store, and it's highlighted in blue, so you see what you're doing. And of course you can, so if I just took this, change the formatting again, just to make it consistent. So I could just totally still do like, I Control C, Control Shift C, Control Shift Alt, so I could cover that at the same time. And I could cover that card as a separate card. So I'm just kind of showing the different ways you can combine it. So, I can cover 2 words, or just the 1 word. It depends on what you want to do. So right now, if you're familiar with Anki, like this is pretty simple. Like you just cover the 1 word or you cover the both words. And all of those hotkeys I was using for control and stuff, those are all in the PowerPoint, just a couple slides later. And I showed you the multiple, so you cover multiple words, and of course you just keep doing it. And you can cover as many words as you want. So for those of you who are familiar with Anki, here's a little tidbit that you might not be familiar with. So kind of having something in here for everyone. So let's go into here. So now let's say I want to have a table. So let's just get a table up. So obviously I'm putting up a table. I'm actually just going to make a short detour. So in reality, I would almost never just type stuff into Anki. That's very slow. What I do is I'll just copy paste from my Word document, paste it in there. And usually it keeps the formatting decently well. Let's see if something else is a little bit better. Yeah, let's try this. Let's copy that and paste it in. And you can see like that just looks way better. And it's also way faster. So cover that, make this the same card, nice and quick. Add that. But let's say you have a table. So let's see. Yeah, here's a table. So let's just copy this. So I copy that table, and then I'm going to go on to Google Chrome. There's a couple links that I have. So I have this one called Word to HTML. I have the links in the PowerPoint. So I like to paste the table in here first. It just helps with the formatting. Sometimes Microsoft Word has some very kind of weird formatting and it doesn't come out as well. So what I do is I copy it, paste it into here first. I just take it out. And then I go onto this other site called Tables Generator. So HTML Tables Generator, you can see the link there. Hit paste table data, paste that. I hit load. You can see the table loads in there. I click generate, so it's going to generate this HTML. So that's basically all the information that makes your Word document look like it does. Like all the bullet points, all the colors, the bolding, that's HTML. So this just kind of generates that code, and you just hit copy to clipboard. Now, if we go into the Anki cards, we can click on edit HTML. So it's these 3 little lines. So you click on that, you come down here to edit HTML. You hit Control V. So you just paste it. And then you get a table into the close deletions. So now you can cover up the table. So I can cover that, that. I can maybe like put those together, and this one I can cover over here. So I'll show you what that looks like. So, this is like the other cards I was showing you, but now I have the table in there, and tables are really nice to put in text. So you can see it just puts it right in there, and it's all nice and formatted and really nice for doing flashcards with. Makes it way faster. So that's kind of a more advanced cloze feature, I suppose. So if we say did that one more time, let's use a simpler card actually. So let's go back to our today. Let's go back to today was a sunny, nice day. So if I do that close deletion again, what I can do is after this card, I can add a hint. So what you do is you do semicolon, or sorry, colon, colon, and you say like sunny or cloudy. And what will happen, so if I hit add, I hit resume, I hit study, and I'll go like today was, and you can see now it's got the hint text in there, sunny or cloudy, and something nice day. So, based on the card, it looks like it's probably a sunny day, and it was. It's this nice sunny day. So that hint text is really nice because it lets you just add some hints to make the cards a little bit easier to answer, especially if you're getting it wrong a couple times. Having it in text to be able to add the hints is really nice. So one of the ways you can change the cards, you can just click on edit here. So this is the Migaku editor. So basically it just makes it a little bit better. You'll just see me using it. Once you download it, it just works. So you can see over here, like this is the card, like I was editing it before. And let's say I didn't want this word nice in there. So I can just take it out. And you can see it updates the card. So really nice. Another nice thing about this editor is once you've installed it, it's just going to feel like that's how it works. So you just double click on it, and it's going to go today. It was this, and then you can edit the text. Was it what type of day was it? And let's just exit so I don't pass the card. So I'll just go back here. Today was what type of day was it? Day. So yeah, this is really nice. You can just double click on it. You can edit the card. Really nice and quick. Another nice thing is that you can add images. So let's not do that. So, copy the sentence. Today was a sunny day. And then if I had a picture, so I'll just go back to my notes. This is definitely not the picture of a sunny day, but that's okay. So if I just added that, I don't need that. So again, just going back into the deck. So today was a what type of day? It's a sunny day. And then you can see here, like on the other card I just made, I have that picture. So it just adds up a little bit more, kind of helps you memorize the stuff a little bit faster. Yeah, so let's go back here. So I've shown you like, nice and simple. I've shown you like multiple symbols, so you can do multiple things at once. I've shown you the table. Yeah, I recommend that you try it once. So try to do a simple one covered word, multiple, try using the table. I have the links. And then of course I showed you the editing, just double clicking on the text or hitting the edit button, and then just edit the card from there. And here's some other YouTube videos you can watch just for a quick explanation, and then a little bit more in-depth explanation with the demonstration of the hint text and hotkeys. And yeah, the benefits of the close deletion is you can add that hint text, so it makes that card a little bit better, especially if you're having trouble with it. And you can add the hints, and it's very easy to take notes from Microsoft Word and copy paste them in, just way more efficient, really nice. And then these are just some of the hotkeys. So if I just go back into the adding cards, so let's say I have this. Let's pull up those notes again. So let's copy a few lines of text. I'm going to paste it in. So for this first hotkey, so you do Control or Command, depends if you're using Windows or Mac. You just use, one or the other. So let's say I just do Control plus the right bracket. It adds the number bullet point, so you can see that there. So I could do that. I could just highlight it and just click on that. So then I'll pull them all up. Or you can do it the other way, so with the left side, and then it's a bullet point. I can mix and match. So say I do a bullet point here, and I can have that and our bullet point or number point. So nice and simple. I showed you the close deletions already. Control-Shift-C, like that. I've shown you Control-Shift-Alt-C, so same card. And you can just edit the card numbers here, so you can see there's C1, but then there's C1 there. So if I meant to make a second card, I could just go C2 or C3. Really easy to use. And then Control plus Shift and the right arrow, so that's going to make a sub bullet, so it's going to move it to the right. And likewise, if I do it to the left, you go back to the left. So, you can just move it over. Or let's say like I go here. And let's say I made this a number. Then I just wanted this to be a sub bullet. I could bullet it over. You can just play around with it. You'll be able to get a handle on it. And those are the links for the Word to HTML and the website for the table to convert it over. So, and we already talked about this, formatting your pages to make closed cards. So you just double click on the text to edit it. You click outside the text, it updates the card. You can add hints for the card. So again, you just have the code and then you just add the double colons, then the hints, and then the brackets will be there. And then it'll add the hint text. So, it can hear like stop, and then this would be the hint, do what. Easy. Well, it'll get easier as you do it. So how to Anki. So now we're going to talk about image occlusion. So for image occlusion, this is honestly one of the best add-ons ever. If it isn't text, like I'm using any kind of photo, anything, I use this card. It's just amazing. This guy made the add-on, so he's going to have the best explanation, I think. But you don't have to watch the whole playlist. You can just have a look-see. Essentially, what you do is you pull up the card add-on, and you'll have this little picture graph right there. So I'm going to show you how that is. But that's going to be a picture of what this is going to look like. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take a snip of this photo right now. So just put it onto my clipboard. Awesome. Let's go to add. So you can see that's just my PowerPoint. This is the add. So let's click on this button right there. So I've already copied that image. It's on my clipboard. It'll update here. So this is image occlusion. So essentially what this lets you do is cover parts of the card. And when you first pull up the image, often it's not just so perfectly oriented like I have. You just click this button right here, and it fits it right to the size of the frame that you have on your computer. And so if we just kind of walk through it, so there's this mask editor, and then there's fields. Fields lets you just add information to the card. So, cell, that's just the header. It'll show up on every card. We can add some footers. So this would always be there. So name this structure. And some remarks, blah, blah. You can add your sources and extra, but it's just really extra information. And if you click on here, you can just make sure it's going into the right deck. So putting into our example deck, the new deck improved. So that's awesome. Okay, so this here is just a select tool. So basically just lets me kind of click and drag to kind of capture stuff if I needed to. I'll show you that in a sec. This here is lines. So if I click on that, I can draw lines. So if there wasn't a line already there, I could draw one. Or if I want to draw another one with these little ribosomes, like I could draw one there. Or I could draw, a line here. You can just draw lines all over the place. And you can click on this rectangle. So it says rectangle. And this is the best part. So you just cover that up. And then you can guess the word after. So let's just go back. So I click on that. And I don't need these, so I'm just going to delete them. That's just for demo. So once I add those masks, they'll make the cards. So I have two options. I can either hit hide all, guess one. So it's going to hide both of the things, or hide one, guess one. So it'll show just one at a time. So let's click on that, and we'll try the other one as well. Right. So let's close this, and that's just the slide deck. So we'll go back here. All right, and let's hit study. All right, so we got the image. So I had copied it, and you see the header. So that's the cell, and you know what's it pointing at, and it says name and structure at the bottom. So nice little hint. Yep, nucleus, awesome. And then I have the remarks. The remarks don't show up on the front of the card, it's just at the back. So sometimes you have some extra information you want to add, put in the remarks, blah, blah. And this is the hide all show one. So you can see it's hiding the other one I hit. And if I show it, yeah, nucleolus, awesome. And then this would be the other card option. So hiding one, guessing one. So you see it only hides the one word and not the other one. So the benefit of that is then if you need to see a little bit more context for the card, it's gives you a bigger picture. But if you don't want to see the next thing that's coming up, perhaps you might want to hide all of them so you don't give it away, so that way you're not already seeing the answer before you do the card. For the most part, I personally, so let's just go back here. So I'm just going to copy this again. So you just use whatever snip tool, or you can snip tool, or you can just copy the card onto your clipboard, you know, Control-C. Yeah, so I'm just back here again. I open it up, pull it up to full view. I've got the rectangle going. So a couple other things you can do with this is if I cover a nucleus here, the nucleolus there, what I can do is I can go back to the select tool. And if I click on that and then I hold down shift, so again, I hold down shift and I click on that, I have selected both. You can click this right there, group elements, or you can press G. So if I hit G, now it puts them together. So let's see what that looks like. So let's click on that. All right. So let's pull up my Anki. All right, so study. So now you can see I'm covering two things at once. So I can test myself on multiple things from the image at the same time. So nucleus, nucleolus, perfect. So it's a really great way to just go through a lot of visual information, you know, flowcharts, pictures, anatomy, really great add-on. I used it a ton. Let's again copy the image. You have to copy the image to make sure it's there. So that way when you pull open press the button, it loads it. So let's go back here. Let's click on the add button. Go to fit. So a couple other things that are nice to do, like let's say there was a structure here and it wasn't in here and I really wanted it. Well, I could go over to here to layers. So what I've been doing is I've been putting little masks on so it hides something, but I could go to labels. So I could click on labels. Now I'm basically on what the picture is itself. So I click on this text right here. I could write membrane. So now it's literally just part of the card, like it's just in the layer. So, and then I want a little line. So I click on that. I draw to the membrane. I could click on the rectangle. I could cover it. Oh, I don't want to cover it in layers. Then it won't show up. We'll go back to masks. Then we'll cover it. So this is the mask. I'm going to cover it. So there we go. So I just edited the image a little bit. I added that line and that's membranes underneath this card. I'm going to hit, I'm going to cover this one as well just to show you. Click hide one, guess one. Close this. And we've got the cards. So click on that. So you can see right there, there's the word membrane, and it stays there. So it's now part of the card essentially. All right, so now just kind of going into some kind of workflow stuff. So again, if you're familiar with Anki, this is all very basic, but now let's just kind of show you like some of the stuff I do. So, you click on add, then we click on this, but let's show you some of the stuff I do to just really make this move. So sometimes I find the images can be a little bit general. So if I, cover this, and then I'd add text. So I could click on T, or I could just press T and it goes to text. I could go in or contains DNA. Like I could write contains DNA. There. So if I do that, you can see like I have the cover and I have that. Well, if I just add it like this, so let's just hit add. I didn't put it in layers. You'll see what I mean. So if I go here and I hit study, it shows that. So that's the same as, this and fearless. But then the word comes up as its own kind of card. So it says contains DNA. Well, that's not helpful. That doesn't assist me at all. So what I do instead is I group them. So I take both, I just hit group. So that way I don't have this hint text always showing up on every single card, because that's not what I want. It's just kind of, it might be in the way or it might be covering something. But I can also put it in red. So I just put it in red. So those are my color options. Put it in red so it's nice and easy to see. And then if I add it, and we go and do the card. So we're in the new deck, go here. Now it's just part of the hint essentially. Let's just close that. So now it's just part of the hint. So if I hit it, it'll go away. So I find that this way faster, just simplifies it. So if I really need a quick little hint on something, I can just click on it, it's done. So, and I'll just show you one more time, just making sure I'm being thorough, but this is obviously the slowest. If I was really doing this card, I would be covering the whole thing. Like I wouldn't just be covering one word at a time. I would, cover like, I could cover this, I could cover that, cover that, cover this. And a shortcut is you can just press D and it'll just copy the last thing you did. So if I hit D a whole bunch of times, then I could just drag it around, make it nice and quick. So on and so forth. I don't need all of these, you get the idea. And then, same with the line. So if I hit press V or click on the line tool, I can draw a line and I can make it thicker down here. So I just click that, make it thicker. And then if I click and drag and I press G, I put those two together. So now they're going to stick together. And then say for this one, I can just write hint. And again, you've seen all this before. I could combine all of these. So just press G and they're all together. Hide one, guess one. And I'll show you what those cards look like. So I'll just move that to different. Again, show it. So yeah, now you can see my line. So the line's added there. And then there's the hint text, and then there's multiple things grouped together. All right. So back to the PowerPoint. So yeah, you've seen all that. So try making your own image occlusion cards, like just a simple mask, just cover one part of the cell or something. Try doing like a hide one, guess one, or hide all, guess one. Do a grouped mask. So select the two masks together with Shift and then hit G, and you group a few items together. You can try it with the text, you can try it with the lines, you can just do masks. And then, of course, just like I was talking about, group a mask with a line or text. And clicking and dragging the cursor can help you select multiple masks, but sometimes it's faster to just do Shift because sometimes the stuff overlaps a bit. So you'll figure it out. And then while you're editing, so let's say let's go back to the cards. And let's say if you hit Control Z, it just goes back. So let's say I did a card and I was like, wait, I have no idea what I just did. I hit Control Z and I just go back. So with the Migaku editor add-on, all you have to do is hit edit. So, we have this card. And then I can click up here on this edit button for the image occlusion. And what that'll do is that'll pull open the editor again. So instead of hide one, guess one, it'll go like add new cards. So I could add just all of them, whatever's in here. Or I could say like, I didn't like how this line was done. So I could click on it and press G to ungroup it. And I could adjust it. So I actually wanted the line to actually point to the ribosome as opposed to nucleolus. I could regroup it again. And what I'd do is I'd hit edit cards or add new if I want all new, but I probably want to hit edit cards. And it'll say it'll delete one card, so the old one that I had that I fixed, and create one new one. So that's the one I just changed. And I'd hit yes. So what that'll do, so we'll close that. So what that'll do if we go in here. So yeah, there's that, and there's the card. And now you can see it's updated. So it's just, adjusted a little bit, fixed it up. Nice. Yeah, so this just describes that. So you click on the edit in the bottom left. Bottom left, I had bottom right there, so that's just an error. So if I went back into here, I went to Anki and I have the card, I just click, edit. The pop-up would appear with the, I'll show you that. So there the pop-up appears. And I click on the image occlusion symbol, that thing right there. I go to the editor, make the changes, edit the cards, and then the new adjustments are added. So you just hit the add new cards or edit cards, probably click on edit cards. So, all right, so intervals. So this is probably the thing that has a lot of theory behind it, but I have some general settings. So the theory behind it is that Anki lets you decide how long you wait before you see each card. Once you set the algorithm, it takes care of the rest. You don't have to touch it again. The theory is the longer the interval you can like recall or do the card again in, the better your long-term retention. So there was a study and the page got taken down. This guy had a great article, but essentially like he had to update stuff. So it's no longer there. So I don't have the exact article here, but essentially they had people reviewing like every day or every week or every month, like one time a month. And they were asked to rewrite a test after not studying for 6 months. So they were given whatever, like 6 months to study this one term. And this guy saw it like, 180 times, and this person only saw it like, 30, and he saw it only 6. So the people that reviewed it every single day remembered about like 30% after that 6-month lag. So they didn't look at it for 6 months. They only remembered like 30% of what they were given. The one time a week remembered like 40, but the one time a month was like easy double of like the one time a day, like 60. I don't have the exact numbers up here, but the proportions are about that. So the take home point is the further you can space the cards apart while remembering them, the better for your really long-term memory. The comp at the end of second year, you want to be able to just retain the information for, a long length of time. So this is just when we were talking earlier, and I showed you that settings wheel. So if I just go back there, let's just close that. Let's just go back here. So if I clicked on this and I went to options, I'd pull up all this information. So you can see that. So my favorite interval right now is 1440 minutes. So it's just one day so when you hit pass, it just goes away for a day. And then this should say 8640. So please just correct that. It should say 8640. But essentially it's just, that's 6 days. So one day, 6 days. So it comes up and again at about a week. And the graduating interval is 12 days. So after you hit it again, it'll show up again in 12 days. And the reason I like to do that is, first off, for that longer interval, that's about how long they say it should be, like about a day, a week, and then about a couple of weeks. And then that program will take it from there. You don't have to worry about it. But it also really helps because lecture material tends to build on a weekly basis. If you can't get the topic of the week, whatever, even in the blocks, so you can't have like a section of the week where you're getting the foundation, and then they build on the foundation, and then it continues to build. So what happens is that when you have it coming back in about a week and then 2 weeks, you kind of build on the concepts from the week 1 lecture and the week 2 lectures. So it helps you draw those connections a lot easier, as well as memorize the information. So you don't just memorize it, but you draw the connections as you memorize it. Or to put it really simple, you just set it up like this. I did roofing one year, and essentially the roofer I was working with, he showed me how to do something. He said, right now you're at the very beginning of roofing for the summer. And he said, he's been doing it for years. And he said, so what we're going to do is you're going to just do it how I show you. And one day, if you ever get better than me at doing this, you can do it your own way. But for now, just do it this way. So similar, if you have lots of experience with Anki and you know what works for you, go for it. If this is your like kind of introduction to Anki, you haven't been using it very long, I just recommend you just open up the settings tab. So like I had up here, and it's all copy pasted there. So I go into those options and you just put in the settings, same as I have it. I have it copy paste. I have the photos right there. Set it up the same, it'll work great. And then as you get better at Anki, you can adjust it as you see fit. So while I was doing all of this, so when you get the cards, you'll also get like this again, or hard, or good, or easy. And I remember when I first started, that was actually a question, and I did some reading up on it. And the best solution that I found for what to do is if it's an easy, like the easiest way to do it is ask yourself, would I benefit from seeing this card again? If yes, like you didn't understand the card as well as you could have, like you feel like you should see it again, press against this button right here, and you'll see the card in whatever it is, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So you just hit again. If you're unsure, like you're like, I kind of got it, but I'm not sure if I really got it, just pass, just hit good. Don't worry about hard and easy. I never use those. I actually have an add-on that gets rid of them, but it's really not needed. Just pass the card, hit good. You can press again if you still don't get it the next time the card comes up. but you don't want to be like stuck thinking, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Just hit good or just hit good or again, and just keep moving forward. How many cards a day? During foundations, I typically add about 50 to 100 new cards a day. Near the end of block, I do about 400 cards a day, which takes about 1 or 2 hours to get through. Now that I've been doing Anki for a while, if I really want to, I could probably get through about 400 cards in an hour. So, but obviously I've gotten better at making the cards, and I've gotten more used to like using the program. So just being able to move faster through the reviews. But generally I don't do the cards outside of the block. So if I'm in foundations, I do my foundations cards. But when I moved on to endocrinology, I didn't do the foundations. I just focused on endocrine. Just that way I was focusing on the topic and I was giving my best attention to each block. All right, so card content. So we talked about how to make a card. For some of you, you might not want to even bother with that, but for others, like that might be the whole part you want to take away from this video. And the next question is, what content should you be putting in the card? I've just been covering up some basic anatomy stuff, but our notes are a little bit more than just anatomy. So we know how to make the cards, what makes a good flashcard. So my basic premise is that you want to maximize the context. So use the cloze cards for text. You can add the hints and the cues with your card, and you have all the other text. And it's really fast to copy paste. And then use image occlusion cards for the pictures. And or like you have some text and like there's a photo here, and so like if I had a nice little, let's say I go back here, I could like take a snip of that, and then if I went to Anki and I went to the deck, so new deck improved, I hit add, I can click on this, the image occlude, full screen. Yeah, so then if I really liked, you say like I had some text describing a picture and I really wanted to have that, and then I could cover that. So there we go. And then I'd have a card with the text. So I'll use image occlusion for that as well. I find that really nice sometimes when I'm making the notes, and the picture isn't that descriptive, but the text really, like they need each other. So I just use that. And make the card simple, simpler the better. If you have really complex cards, you just find it kind of bogs you down, and you almost don't want to do your own cards because like you have to think so hard to do them. Just little bite size, like 1 or 2 words, if you're able to, it just makes it way faster. And make sure you understand before memorizing. Like practice reinforces what you know, so you can draw those connections. But if you're memorizing something you understand, you're going to forget it, and it's just going to make it a lot harder, especially when those reviews are coming back like 6 days later. If you didn't get it, you're really going to know. What else? So what content? So first thing, focus on definitions. They're the building blocks of your understanding. If you don't understand what the word is, you really don't understand the whole concept. So like example here, so I have this image occlusion. So it's like petechia but larger. It's around 3 millimeters in diameter. It's non-blanching. You can see that I've covered up whatever it is. So, and there's the photo. So on the other side, this is just pura. And like, that's just like a definition. So, you want to be able to have those in case, the nurse comes in and she's like, well, the patient has pura. Well, you don't want me to totally lost. Like, it's going to help you follow the conversation. You're going to be able to, remember those words. It's going to help with your charting. It's just important to be able to know what you're talking about. This will be really apparent when you get to LCE and clerkship. Definitions are building blocks to having an intelligent conversation and not getting totally lost. This would just be a text version, so the cloze deletion, and it's like, this would be gone, and it'd be like all the descriptor, and then that'd be the other side. So definitions, definitely a good thing to have. Next thing is to focus on relationships. So example, so if I had a card and the back, this is the text above, and then I have my cloze occlusion. So what symptom is associated with anemia? Well, an increased heart rate. So you have to beat harder to get the oxygen to the body. But then the question is what to cover. Do you cover the increase or the heart rate? Generally, I don't cover the whole thing because then you really have no idea what you're trying to guess, because that could be a whole list of things. But yeah, if you're covering like, one or the other, then, which one do you cover? So the first option is you cover increased, and then you don't cover the increase. You cover the heart rate. So you can see it here in the brackets. So this would actually be a very difficult card, since I'd have to guess what increased, like what symptom increased. Was it the heart rate? Is it fatigue? Ice chewing if they're anemic, like iron deficiency anemia? Like, it's just really hard to figure out what I'm trying to get at, on your own card. So option 2 is you cover their relationship, so increased heart rate. So this is a better card to focus on the relationship of what happens in anemia, and it's less ambiguous than the first card. So I could add a little hint like increased or decreased, or, how does it change? And then it'd be a very good card because that's very quick to do. And I wouldn't be trying to figure out, what was I trying to think of that day? Once you start doing the cards, this will make a lot more sense. Like you'll start to pick apart like, oh, this really is focusing on the wrong part of the question. And this is just something I found from doing it. So what other things? So you don't want to memorize symptoms. So how I was talking about increased heart rates, pallor, fatigue with anemia, stuff like that. You want to focus on the interpretation of those symptoms. So for example, a patient doesn't tell you, I have anemia. Tell me how fast my heart rate is. Like, no, that's just not the case. This patient will come and tell you, I'm tired, breathless, and my heart rate is fast. What is wrong with me? Okay, so what you want to do is you want to take those symptoms and then figure out what it is. So if we just take this picture, this is from Calgary Guide. I have the link in the text description below the slide. So we have this type of anemia, and it says all the general signs and symptoms of anemia are present. So, increased heart rate, breathlessness, increased respiration rate, fatigue, pale. So a really good card would be to cover up the hemolytic anemia, because then if I'm looking at all this stuff, like, oh man, look at this, and it's yellow and all this different information, then if I cover that up, I'd have all this to give me context so I could figure out what it is, or I could just cover the hemolytic. So what type of anemia. And then because I have this great image, I could also cover this right part right here. So the increased. So I could cover the increased heart rate and the increased rep rate, respiration rate, group them together. And then I have another really good card, like, general signs and symptoms of anemia, increased heart rate, increased respiration rate. So we're focusing on interpretation. So in summary, my basic premise is maximize the context. So use the cloze, use image occlusion, make them simple, focus on definitions because you need to understand it. Focus on relationships, like focus on the load, not the hemoglobin, or heart rate, and don't memorize symptoms. Instead, focus on their interpretation. That will help a ton. So this is definitely the part where if you're watching and trying to skip ahead, this is where you want to come back. So these are just a couple of resources that I had. So when I went through, I built all the decks for foundations and like endocrine. I've been summarizing all the notes. So definitely like a pretty big resource, and it'll save you a ton of time because you'll just be able to use the cards I made. And I mean, really 1 year to the other. I've watched the previous year's lectures, and I've even had just a quick check at some of your guys' lectures. And I mean, some of the stuff is a little bit organized, a little bit different, but by and by the content is pretty similar. So yeah, I have a whole foundations block deck. So let's just talk about this. So pre-made decks. So making cards is the bottleneck of Anki, like it's the time sink. So you got to summarize your notes, prepare the cards, choose what to cover. It's just, it just takes hours. So the solution is to use a pre-made deck. So you can use mine. There's other stuff on the internet. Like there's a big Anki deck for people in the States that love to use for studying for the USMLE. I personally don't think I'll be writing the USMLE. So especially since I went, here doing the classes a year after I did them, this deck should be really, really like succinct for what you're doing. So my block deck, foundations, midterm, and final, I separated it out. Midterm was about 7 weeks in. So right now, I think I heard you guys like are in genetics. So I think that's my final, but it doesn't really matter. I'll explain why. So all my cards are tagged by the lecture title. So slightly simplified, but they still should be easy to find. So I'll show you what I mean. So if we go back into the browse feature, so if I click on browse. So whenever you're adding a card, there's actually this little field that I didn't talk about yet, but it's at the bottom. So if I like put GI, and then you can do colons to do subtext. So like week 1, anatomy, interior abdomen, and you hit add, all the cards would like keep adding to this. So if I just added like, text, and I hit add, oh wait, I need to make that a close. Good. So add, and then I can just keep adding cards and it'll keep adding to this tag. And when I want to switch the tags, because I have to go to a different lecture, if you like switch to nutrition or histology, so on and so forth. But what that looks like in the browser, so I have the browser open, is I go over here. So let's just look at GI, because this is kind of how I organize it for all the blocks. So I just went by week. So if we drop that down, you can see like there's anatomy. There's another lecture that had ECC, so early childhood caries. You don't have to know this. all the topics. And then so like we had a lecture on radiology. So I have it week 1, radiology under GI or anatomy. So the lecture would literally be titled like, anatomy of the anterior abdomen. So I just have the tag anterior abdomen and it's under anatomy, and it was in week 1. So it's very easy to find. For foundations, I didn't organize it by week, which might actually be better, especially since I heard they rearranged foundations a little bit. So it's all organized by topics instead. So let's say like look at genetics. So this one that I'm still figuring out how to use the tags, but I still have the lectures. So like lecture on epigenetics, lecture on inheritance, lecture on molecular genetics. So if we look at here, so this will just show you all the cards in this section. So there's like what 78 cards in here. And so if I just went and if I clicked on created just to organize it, so it's up at the top, and I hit preview, then it let me just kind of look at the cards I'd made for that. So you can see, I did image occlusion and close text and all that good stuff. So you just have the deck here. So yeah, it's just a little bit faster. And then you can edit the cards if you found that like it doesn't quite fit what you want. Yeah, so anyways, so that's tag. So it just organizes everything in each little section. So if let's go back to my slide. So what you do is you're just going to download the cards. So Isla has the folder, she's going to release it. And then you just double click on them to upload them to Anki. For example, if I had this, I could, so here's the deck, it's in my folders. I just double click on it. It's thinking as it uploads it to Anki. Let's close this, close that. Yeah, so then it would add it here, and so you can see it like foundations, bugs, and drugs. So there's the deck right there. And that's how many cards you have that are new in the deck, and then these are the ones you've already seen, so you just keep doing them. Yeah, so what you do is that, what I would do is when you get the deck, especially like the big one, like the foundations midterm, foundations final, like this is a lot of cards. You don't want them all just sitting there, like it just isn't gonna work, especially since we're talking about this halfway through the block. You really want this to just be, focused on the lectures that you've already covered. So what you'll do is you'll download that deck. You'll go to the GI block, you'll hit browse. And so you see this tag, like I can, cascade everything so it's not so big. You can just click on that, and I would hit Control-Alt, so you select everything, and then hit suspend up here. So it won't, okay, so it won't delete anything. It just means that you won't be able to see it. So if I went back out, so what that looks like is like the foundations final, like there's now no cards to see, like they're all suspended. You see there's all these cards suspended. So after you've done that, you go to the lecture, and then you would find the corresponding tag for that lecture and then preview the cards. So you make sure it's the same cards, like the same lecture. Of course, it's from my summarized notes, so it won't be like, it's going to be a little bit in my own words, a little bit more succinct. But like, say you had a lecture on genetics, and it was on, what one do you want to talk about? Maybe molecular, or even BChem. So if we went to BChem, oh yeah, genes. So click on this one, and then have them all synced up. So I hit preview. Yeah, and then you can see like this is just a lecture on genes. Just have all the image occlusions, and that way you can just work through the deck. And so what you do once you find the right tag, you just hit Control-Alt for this tag because it's just in this section. You hit suspend, unsuspend them, and then when you go back in here, you can see now there's the. Of course, I've already done them. Like when you guys get the decks, they'll all be new. But now all the cards are just ready for you to review. So you can just do them right there. Yeah, so you unsuspend the cards and just work through them. So I recommend doing the cards in order. I have that in the settings, like if you sync up the settings, as opposed to random, it's going to make way more sense the first time because then they'll show up like, kind of in sequence. And then the next time you see it, like after you pass them, they come back randomized. So there's no worry about like, will you get the nice testing effect? Like you will get it, but do it in order the first time. It'll make life a lot easier. And then you'll get the sense of the flow of the lecture. So if I was showing you, I could go into options, show new cards in order added. Sometimes there's a bit of a quirk when you get a new deck. and you have to do a couple cards on, here, I'll show you. So you have to do a couple cards in random order. I don't know why. It just does this sometimes. You have to go to Foundations file, like do one card and then go back and change the options to do it in order added. You'll figure it out because the cards will kind of come in sequence. If they're totally random every single time, it's probably doing that little glitch. Just change the setting, do one in random, and then go back and do it in order. It should work just fine. All right, so back to PowerPoint. Yeah, and of course, feel free to do your own cards. Like this is just kind of the offer. Like you can use it if you want. If you don't want to use it, totally fine. This is just for your information. The pre-made deck just helps increase your efficiency. So closing thoughts about Anki is that knowledge, which is like the Anki cards, and wisdom. So you have to practice questions. Application equals success. So one more time, knowledge and wisdom equals success. You cannot just do Anki and expect everything just lines up for you. You gotta do some work. You gotta attend DL. Try doing some practice questions or test yourself with classmate. Super highly recommended. Anki just really makes this part a lot easier and gets rid of the exam cramming. You have way more time to focus on applying the material instead of trying to memorize the material, which is the whole point. Stop the big gun because that can be quite hard on the person. It can affect all the gut and whatnot. And we'd switch to the penicillin, so we'd step down. So instead of using a cannon to take out a fly, we'd switch to like a fly swatter. So you want to use something a little bit more appropriate. And this graph just kind of helps you visualize, when we're using carbapenem, this is a cannon, this is a fly swatter. Use the fly swatter. So my learning deck, so we have this deck, so the Excel sheet Word doc, bugs, drugs, and disease. It's the final version of the quadrants that I showed you. It is comprehensive and too much to memorize at once. I'm going to show it to you here just so you have it in the video. Hold on. So this is it. This is not for you to memorize. This is also might be causing a little bit of panic. But it's all there. So the reason I have this isn't for you to try to memorize it right now. It's for you to print it off. So that way you basically have everything summarized. It's already been summarized by a group that I worked with. And it's all in place. It has all these connections already thought out. It has all the where everything fits. How does it cover? How does it work? It's all just here. All you have to do is print it and you just get to look at it. You stick it on your wall, just gaze at it. Like, wow, that's a really nice rainbow. And there's this other one that also has a nice little flow chart and the video that it goes with. You can watch this later. But essentially just print this off. This is not to memorize right now. You're not trying to understand it. You're not trying to memorize literally anything on this right now. It's just to look there, look pretty, let you know that it exists. So yeah, I recommend you print it. Then as you move through the flashcards and you cover this stuff one step at a time, you can memorize the page. So I have it cross-linked and I'll show you what I mean. There's also a PowerPoint. So if I open up the PowerPoint that's in there, you're going to get this. Isla has it. It has a whole outline. So I have, day one. So this matches with the card tags. So we go back to the card tags. So let's open up my Anki. And you'll have this deck as well. So no worries about that. And so you can see I have one laboratory. If we go back to that PowerPoint, day one, what are bacteria laboratory, and then also gram-positive. So gram-positive, and then gram-negative, aerobic, anaerobic, and then some other stuff. But this deck is completely synced with those flashcards. I set it all up so that way you could refer to this in case you don't want to try to look through a whole flashcard deck to find something. Just go to the outline, you can find the cards. I've got some general tips in here for how to memorize it, how to work through it. So it's all set up. You can just refer to this, say here, you're seeing the bacteria lab stuff. You could just pre-read the card, it's all summarized. I tried to focus on just the big stuff. That's going to be really helpful. And also based on the other blocks I did, what did I think was really helpful going forward? And then you can just work through, the slides, and then you just unsuspend the cards and they can work through them. And it's all there, it's all set up. Once you guys start doing antibiotics, you're going to see what I mean. Okay, let's close that. Let's go back to my presentation. Yeah. So I had some comments, advice at the start of the PowerPoint. Just read that at your own leisure. And the Anki deck. All you need to do is download Anki, install the image occlusion add-on. I mean, this whole video is like, I already showed you all that. Double click on the deck. And I've got the deck all set up. Like, you just do it in order, like I've been talking about, and it'll just lead you through one step at a time. And you're not going to be able to recite everything after finish this deck. Like, as much as it's like it's going to help you kind of get there, it's just going to help you start to recognize what antibiotics cover which bacteria. It just takes time to start to absorb this information. And with that general approach of like, what quadrants it's in, as you move through the other blocks of medicine, you're going to just go like, oh yeah, like this antibiotic's working there. And you'll start to draw these connections. And part of the reason why I'm just giving you this end resource right at the start is because then you're going to build up to it, and you're not going to be, learning something, well, hopefully not, erroneously. Like, you're going to have this big picture, and then as you get better at it, as you get more familiar with it, you're going to be able to use it. And yeah, this is just referring to that outline that I talked about. So cross-linking. So what I did is if you do the cards in order, I show the first slide about, say, like the bacteria. So this would be like a slide from that PowerPoint I was showing you. And then, so this would be the first flashcard, and I'd cover this word, Staphylococcus aureus. This word, anyways, this red thing. And it'd have all this. This is just like one slide. So I'd cover that. And you'd like, okay, like you get the word. And then the second flashcard, so if you're doing it in order, the next flashcard will show you where it is, and you'll have this covered. You'll have like a little hint kind of text up here. And you'll have this covered. And then what that'll do is it'll give you an ability to kind of remember where the stuff fits onto that big picture. So you're always remembering it from the big picture. You're always drawing the connection. Like, this is where this fits here. So that way, when you start learning, after you've learned the bacteria and you start learning the antibiotics, you don't have to relearn what antibiotic covers what bacteria fits in here, where does this go? It's all in its place. You'll memorize it in each quadrant. You'll memorize what quadrants the antibiotics in, and you'll pick it up just like that. Well, hopefully. And I added a little bit of my own influence, I guess, on it. So I really like the category guide to understanding disease. It takes a little bit to read through these. Of course, you're going to do some stuff on infections. And I just found, like, especially as you move through the blocks, you're going to have a greater ability to understand pathophysiology, and also just like an example, like pulmonary, cardio, you'll improve your ability. But I didn't focus on like, this whole thing. What I'd do is I'd just cover like, what is this whole thing? I just cover pneumonia per se, just that. And then I would cover like, yeah, so right here, I just cover like the strep pneumonia. So I just cover this bacteria right here. So that way, when you're trying to memorize these bacteria, you can also try to memorize like the disease it causes, like just in this nice flow chart that shows you everything. So then as you move through the blocks, you're going to learn about these diseases, but you're going to already have the connection between like, oh yeah, this bacteria, and it'll help you remember and learn the other information in the other blocks way faster. Like, because you'll have a picture in your mind going, it'll help. So yeah, the category guide to understanding disease, it's amazing free resources, so it can show you all sorts. I have it all synced up with the flashcards. It goes in sync with the material. You can look at the PowerPoint, it's all in there. And while the flowcharts are complex at first, they make it much easier in the long run. You're going to spend a little bit of time trying to understand what the flowchart is, or just memorizing it. What is this? Like, this one looks like pneumonia. Like, you just look at the overall flowchart, you're like, oh yeah, pneumonia. And it pays off. It really does. So at this level, you're just focusing on which bacteria cause which condition. Strep pneumo causing pneumonia. Amazing. Or not amazing, but you know what I mean. And then the rest of the flowchart is only for context, not for your memorization. It's just for context. That way you can remember why this thing is called this. Pneumonia causes pneumonia. And then as you get to the finish of the deck, so you go through, you learn the bacteria, the diseases they cause, and the antibiotics, and you're always referring to that big chart, so you're always remembering where stuff is. You get some of the clinical scenarios. You're not going to be able to do them at first. Like, you're going to have to do it, and then you'll get it all wrong, and then you'll start to memorize kind of like, oh yeah, this antibiotic goes here, this antibiotic goes there. and you'll start to get a pattern for which antibiotics are used for certain drugs, diseases, and bacteria. But when I was first doing this, I had all of my cards, like hundreds and hundreds of cards, trying to figure out how this all worked until we finally made this big graph and then redid it and the third time. And then on the fourth time, I finally, started to get it. But like with the setup, you're going to learn it this way the first time. So you might have to do it 2 or 3 times to really get it, but you're going to get it. Like you'll start to see this pattern. You're going to start to see why we choose this antibiotic for this bacteria, and just be patient. Like it takes time to learn. You're going to have great teachers. They're really amazing, and you're going to have great classmates. So they're going to help you learn, and like it's just one day at a time. And honestly, like the deck is made to do over 9 days. So this isn't even something you have to push up. You can do it over a couple of weeks. And once you get to words, there's even an app called Bugs and Drugs, which is honestly just going to be what you're going to refer to. Doing this is just going to set that foundation. So you're going to be very comfortable with antibiotics when you're there. This video, I have this link right here. I recommend it once you get to the first case studies, like, I'll have the case near the end. I'd recommend you watch that. And then as you work through it, you start to see like, okay, we choose this antibiotic for this. It's really helpful. And again, as you just do it, you'll just start to kind of memorize it. And then you'll suddenly see a pattern. You'll be like, oh yeah, we use this for this. So make sure you learn the antibiotics first and the bacteria before you watch the video. Otherwise, it's going to make no sense. Like it's a resource, but watch it when you get to the cases. And again, you've already seen this. This is the end goal. You'll get there. Don't worry. You might need to do the deck once or twice or thrice. But you'll have plenty of time to do it, and it's all set up. So you just work through it. Should be straightforward. Oh. Yeah, and the rest just has some information at the end. And so I'll see you guys at the Q&A. Thank you so much for your time.